All right. Well, welcome everyone to the first ever AA technology sharing session. The idea for these sharing sessions came out of conversations I had with some of you at the most recent National AA Technology Workshop. There was a common feeling amongst us that the workshops are awesome, but we would really benefit from getting together more frequently to share our experience on technology. So the sessions will always be the last Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Pacific. And if you're in the middle of the country, you can figure out when it'll start for you. Today's session, we're going to have three 15-minute presentations. And our topic, which most of you probably know, it is on the 12-step meeting list plugin and the TSML UI. So after all three presentations, we'll have time for questions and sharing. So as you listen to the three presenters, write down any questions or comments that come to mind, because we're not going to stop for questions in between the presentations. We'll finish at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, so an hour and a half. But I'll keep the Zoom room open afterwards, because maybe we'll want to keep discussing, and that's great. These sharing sessions and the format are an experiment. So please, provide your feedback at the end. I'm going to put a link to a survey in the chat. And if you'd like to help guide this experiment to evolve into what I hope to be a long-term sustainable service project, there is going to be a steering committee, and it's going to be, our first meeting is going to be the first Tuesday in March, so March 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and it'll use the same exact Zoom that we are using right now. There's going to be a bunch of links that get put in the chat during the presentations, and so you don't have to worry about collecting them. They're already in a Google Doc. I would say everyone but our third presenter, Josh, if he has any links, I'll add them to this Google Doc, but for the first two, it's already there, so you don't have to worry about collecting those. And the last thing I want to say before we begin our presentations is to please consider these sharing sessions as a learning group. Few of us are experts in technology. Our first two presenters, Emma and myself, we're not professional web people. We're just AA members that we made ourselves available to help with our local websites. And because we now have some experience with that, we can share it with you all. So with that in mind, we'll begin our presentations. One of the most important functions of an AA website is to display meeting information. And if your website is built with WordPress, and a lot of AA websites are built on WordPress because it's just a super popular way to build websites, then there's a really great WordPress plugin that will allow you to easily maintain a meeting list and connect it to the meeting guide. So I'm now going to turn it over to Emma to teach us a little about the 12-step meeting list WordPress plugin.
Hey everybody, my name is Emma. I'm an alcoholic. I just lost my lights in my room here, so I hope you can see me okay. I'm really grateful to be here and sharing with you, and thank you, Jacob, for having me. I am currently serving as the District 22 in Area 72, District 22 as the web servant, web chair. And I've been doing that for about 2 years now. And when I first started, I had no experience with a website whatsoever. No WordPress experience, no nothing. And I was willing to learn, and really I'm saying that because I want to encourage anybody who is in that position that like it's totally doable to learn it's just one step at a time, like everything else. For me, it has been anyway. Okay, let's see. So when I got asked, and I'm just gonna say right now too, I don't have a lot of experience with giving presentations and I'm super nervous, so just bear with me. Um, okay, so when I got asked to come help with the website, we already had the TSML plugin. It had already been installed before I came on. However, over my time, I've updated it and switched over to the new interface, which we'll talk about later. And it is a critically probably the most important piece of our website. And so anyway, I can't say enough about the 12-step meeting list. And for anyone else who isn't used to hearing this, we call the plugin, most of the time we just say TSML. So if you hear TSML, we're talking about the 12-step meeting list plugin for WordPress. And okay, let's see. So I am going to go through the basics of installing WordPress and take you through the basics of the settings and just kind of do a little tour of what that's all about. And so I'm going to share my screen and I have to make sure okay, here we go. Okay. I'm hoping you guys can all see this. Okay, good. So here I am. Well, I'm going to actually go back out here so here I am. I'm on the dashboard, the landing page, the dashboard of the back end of my District 22 website. And actually, I need to set myself a timer. Okay. And because I already have the plugin installed, you can see here that right on the dashboard, there's a little widget for the 12-step meeting plugin. Over here in my side menu, the meetings tab is there. And then if I go into my plugins menu for in installed plugins, I'll be able to find the TSML as well. But the first thing I want to show is what if I did not have this plugin installed? So I would go into my plugins section here, and I would choose add new plugin. And when I do that, it's going to bring up a menu of plugins. And I'm going to search. You can type out 12-step meeting list, or you can just search on TSML and it'll bring this right back up. The 12-step meeting list itself is what we want to be looking for. This enhanced feedback form is wonderful, but I don't think it's been updated for a while and it's not interacting well with the rest of the WordPress and the 12-step meeting list right now. So 12-step meeting list, and I would come here and then I would install it. But right now you can see I already have it installed. While I'm on this page, this landing page here is a great place for resources. It's got, describing the plugin, installation, frequently asked questions, other shots, reviews. So good place to come if you're first starting. So I would have selected install, and then once the installation was complete, you'd upload it, but install the plugin, and then you'll see it here in your list of plugins. You need to see how this is not activated. when it gets installed, you need to make sure and activate the plugin or it won't be functioning on your website. Okay, good. Also, once you do install and activate it, this meetings tab will automatically show up in your menus, and you'll be able to go into all of these different aspects of the plugin. Okay, so that is the base. Those are the basics of installing it. Once it's installed, let's go. I'm going to take you first into the settings menu. So these are all the main settings of this plugin. It defaults to Alcoholics Anonymous program. You can choose your distance units. You can choose whether the contacts on the meetings are displayed publicly or privately. And I always do private to protect anonymity. But that's a district, just a choice in districts or areas. So right here, this is another section that you'll need to very much know about, because when you go to connect to the meeting guide app, you'll need to know about this feed. This is your meeting feed. Once you create meetings, this creates the actual code that feeds out to other entities. And you can choose to leave the meeting feed code itself open, or you can restrict it and only let certain entities be able to access that feed. And I think when Jacob and I were talking last night, so right now I have it open and I don't have, anyone can pull this, but if I restrict it, these two are already in here, but if they weren't, I could click in this box right here, and let's just say I'm gonna do a test here. I want to add this test entity to the list of authorized entities that can see my meeting feed. So this is how you would keep it private, but allow who you want to see it to be able to see it. Let me get rid of that. Another thing to know here is, see this need help. And I think Jacob is probably going to put these links in the chat. There are two ways two places you can go for help. One or three really. One is where we were already, but that view documentation button I just clicked on will take you to the main page in WordPress.org that about the plugin, and there's a whole slew of documentation in here that I definitely used when I was first trying to understand how this all worked. The other, no. Okay. There's another place, there's a forum that you can use to ask questions and get answers. And it's in GitHub. You'll need to create yourself an account in order to use the forum, but this is another great place for asking for help and learning. And okay, sorry, I'm just checking to make sure. Oh yeah. So when you first install this, you're going to need, if you want to be able to display maps with each of your meeting listings, which I certainly like to think it makes finding meetings easier for people. You can choose, you're going to have to get one of these two types of tokens, either the map box or the Google Maps API key. My experience so far with this is that I love the Google Maps API, but it's more complicated. You've got to create a Google Cloud billing account and go through some steps. And if you're like me, when I came into this, if you're not familiar with that, for me, it felt pretty intimidating. So I think that the the Mapbox token is easier to do, easier to get a token and get that started. And then later, if you want to learn about Google Maps, you can do that. That's what I did. And I am in the process of learning more about that, so I'm more comfortable with it. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on to move on, and then moving on into the into the next subject is this. You have a choice in user interface displays. The TSML UI, which UI stands for user interface, or the legacy UI. When I first came on, we were on the legacy user interface, and it's great, but the TSML UI is the one that's being currently supported and developed, and it's wonderful. So I will show you, it allows you to display all kinds of easy for the user to navigate information about each of the meetings. And so I wanted to actually show you what I'm talking about that. Oh, nope, I forgot. Before we go off this screen, this is also important. If you want people to be able to give you feedback about your meeting listings, you've got to enter right here. You've got to enter an email address. So for me, that's web@nopaa.org. I've already got that in there. But you want to put whatever your admin email address is right in here so that people can reach you to give you feedback. Jacob, let's see, setting up maps, documentation. Okay, creating your meeting feed. Yes. Oh, Jacob, I'm forgetting to talk about aa.org, aren't I?
That's okay. I put it in the chat.
Yeah.
So people
Okay.
can check that out.
Okay. So when you go to get connected with the meeting guide app, you will need to reach out to the aa.org, and so that you can get connected with them. And Jacob put the link for that in the chat. Okay. So now I lost my place here.
So I'll ask a helpful question.
Yes.
Where do people actually see the meeting list on your website?
Yes. That's where I was about to jump to. So once you start populating meetings, the app will automatically generate a meetings page. So I'm going to do this in we'll just go there actually. You can see here in my list of pages on my website, here's this meeting page. And in the meeting page, if I go in, oh, I've edited my meetings page a bit. This is just the landing page. If I go into my meetings, that's where I can do all of my adding and editing of my meetings. Is that what you're asking, Jacob?
Yeah, and then if you like, where will the user see the meetings displayed?
Right. They will see the meetings displayed here, and this is what I had ready for this. So here's the website that I'm managing. They will see it. This is what the TSML, you can see my little button that I added here at the top, but that's not optional. It's not necessary. This is what users are going to see. And this is on the TSML user interface, the newer non-legacy interface. One thing that's nice about this, there are many things, but one of the things that I like about it is users can quickly see whether the meeting is in person, on Zoom, or on phone. You can add all of this information. I'm going to choose Grace Group. And here is the meeting listing. You can see that I can get directions. I can see it on the map. I can see all, if you want to add these details, I've done it. I like having it there so people can get a feel for the individual meetings before they go to them. And so it has, if I wanted to join via Zoom, I can click right here. If I want to join on the phone, I can click right here. All the options are just really easy to navigate for people trying to find a meeting or get to the meeting. It'll also show you all the meetings, other meetings that are at that same location. And if you scroll down, you can see group information. And then here's that update meeting info. This is where the user can reach out to you to ask for feedback or give feedback about the meeting. And I'm just about at my 15 minutes. Jacob, do you want me to stop or do you want me to talk about adding a new meeting real quick?
I I think that's perfect, Emma.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot. Thank you. Well, I'll say thank you to Emma. Um, and that
Thanks.
was great job. And Emma faced her fear and presented wonderfully. So thank you.
Thanks
Um,
for having me. Thanks everybody for
yeah.
listening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn, more than 15 minutes for that plugin. And the good thing to know is that there's documentation and there's a discussion forum. And if you're a member of the TIAA forum, the technology and AA forum, you can also post there if you have questions. So um, I'm the second presenter, and my presentation is all about, well, what if you don't have WordPress? Because if you have WordPress, you got a real easy solution to getting a meeting list on your website and maintaining it and connecting to the meeting guide app. But I found myself, well, I guess first about me, I've already said at the very beginning, I'm Jacob, I'm an alcoholic. I live in Tacoma, Washington, and let me do what Emma did and set a timer for myself. Um, so currently I am the Area 72 web servant. Area 72 is Western Washington. But the experience I'm going to share with you came from when I was web servant for my local central service office, the Puget Sound Central Service Office, which is located in Tacoma. In 2015, I became web servant, which was my first service position in general service. And we used WordPress at that time. They'd been using WordPress for about 10 years before that. And when I rotated out of my position and my co-web servant rotated out a year later, they were never able to find anyone with WordPress experience or who had even the tech savviness to learn WordPress. So they were really stuck, and they ended up hiring these consultants, and the consultants redesigned the website uh, in Google Sites, which is just a free content management software from Google. It's very limited compared to WordPress. And that was actually the goal. Because it's so limited, it's very user friendly. It's a lot like editing PowerPoint slides, and they were able to have, somewhat, just somewhat tech savvy people. You don't even have to be really tech savvy, figure out how to maintain that website. But the way they chose to display the meeting information was horrible. It was not responsive. I remember one time I was going to a meeting that I had not been to in a while, and I pulled over to look it up, and I was like trying to zoom in on my phone, and it like you couldn't click on it to go to the address. I had to copy it and go to my app, and I was just like, I'm going to figure out a better way for them to do this. And what I found, thankfully, at that time was there was the existence of the TSML UI. So like Emma said, TSML stands for 12-step meeting list, and UI is user interface. And so the interface that District 22's website is using is this interface, and it's built with JavaScript. So it's not a part of WordPress. It's just its own little interface program. And our next presenter could tell you more about it. I don't know how it works. I just know how to set it up. And so I was doing really good flowing, and now let me make sure I don't miss anything. All right, so the value of the user interface, like I said, is because it's written in JavaScript, you can incorporate it in any website. And so I'm going to show you the website that I first used this with. Let me make sure I got it ready. Yep, screen share. So this is the Puget Sound Central Service Office main informational website. This is built with Google Sites. So I think we've done a really great job of using Google Sites to make a great little informational website. However, our meeting list is kind of separate. So here's the meeting list. You notice that it's on its own subdomain, meetings.pugetsounda.org. And I'll explain why we did that in just a bit. But you see, this looks exactly like Emma's District 22 meeting list down here is the exact same interface. And then here is the Google Sheet. This is the actual meeting data that, and this is our database. And actually, so I skipped ahead in my my little narrative here. So so yeah, well, I guess WordPress has a database. The 12-step meeting list plugin, accesses that database to store and edit and manage all the data. But with this UI, you need some kind of data. You have to give it a feed, and you can actually do that in any way as long as it comes out to be in the specifications that the meeting guide needs. You can feed it into this interface. One alternative is Google Sheets, and the meeting guide is designed to read from a Google Sheet. And so for people that aren't doing some kind of like custom web app, Google Sheets is probably the best option. And all it takes is naming your columns according to the specifications of the meeting guide. And I have that here. So this is, and actually I will paste all the links that I'm going through in just a moment when I'm done. But these are the specifications. If you were writing a custom app to create a meeting feed, you would just follow these specifications for your data. And so as long as the columns of your spreadsheet follow this, you're good. There is actually a little bit of variation. So here's actually an example from San Jose, and it's kind of funny that whoever's managing this data has done a filter right now. So we can only see the one meeting they're filtering for. But you can see that their columns are like formatted address here, whereas and there's, let's see, conference URL. When I created this for conference URL, I did literally the way the spec said. You can see I did underscore URL because I thought it had to match exactly. But there is some like options. The meeting guide app knows conference space URL will also work. And this example from San Jose is what I'd actually recommend if you want to start your own meeting list. You copy this one. It's shared publicly. I'll have the link in the chat. and you can just go File, make a copy, put it in your Google Drive, and then delete all their data and use it from there. And it's very nice because it has some instructions here that explain every field. So I didn't know about this example when I built the Puget Sound one, but as I've built other ones, I've used this as my starting place from now on. All right, so when you want to set it up, there's some documentation here. And again, I'll put that link in the chat. It's in that Google Sheet or Google Doc I sent you in the very beginning. It's just this one little bit of HTML that you insert. I think this is really designed beautifully because it's pulling this one JavaScript, which is a very complicated JavaScript file, but it's pulling it from Code for Recovery's server. So as improvements and updates get made to it, you never have to update your actual website, because as soon as the person's browser reloads the page, it's going to get the most up-to-date user interface. So essentially, once you get this set up, you never have to update it. And I love that. Whoever thought of that design really knew what they were doing. So thank you. Um, so let's see. And you can, if you have a website where you can embed HTML easily, you can just do that. Now, if we go back to the Puget Sound website, it's a Google site. There is the ability to embed HTML, but it doesn't look great. It's in this iframe and it's real funky. So I decided not to mess with that. I just put it on its own website, and we weren't paying for any web hosting though. So the question was, how do we get this on the internet? And this is the only innovation I can take credit for is that I like to play around with making free web apps with GitHub Pages. And if you've ever heard of GitHub Pages, you can essentially have a free, as long as it's just HTML and JavaScript, a free website. So we put, this is our little repository, and see it's just two images and then an index file. And in here, you can see, well, if I don't know if that's going to load, but it's basically just got the header that I created, and then that one little bit of code that I showed you right here, and you just plug in your source and whatnot. And so I'm going to come off of screen share for a moment. Yeah, I got about 5 minutes, so doing good on time. When I became Area 72 web servant, thankfully, most of our districts and intergroups and central offices, they already had websites, and almost all of them, except the Puget Sound Central Service Office, they were all running WordPress. They had their meeting feeds going, and the area was just importing those feeds. There was about 8 districts that the area actually managed their data for them in the 12-step meeting list plugin, because they didn't have a website that could do that. Some of them had no website, some of them had just, a Weebly, and they couldn't do anything. They hadn't figured out how to set anything up. And I do not like managing meeting data from other parts of the state that I have no idea anything about those meetings. It's really hard. I'm not the best person to do it. So it was my mission to set up these districts with their own setup. And no matter what setup they are, we can set this up for them with GitHub Pages for free. And so I just was going to show you 2 of those examples that we got done just at the end of this year. Find, so this was District 46, which is up kind of north on the Olympic Peninsula of I don't know, I'm probably everyone in Washington, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's in Western Washington, across the Puget Sound from where I am. Um, and they use Weebly, and they never had a meeting list. And so this is their website, and they just made a link that takes them to this TSML UI page that I set up in a GitHub. I created a GitHub account for the area, and they just now that it's set up, all they have to do is manage the Google Sheet. And that's pretty easy to train someone to manage. If they have spreadsheet experience, they can figure that out. And District 56, which is close by across the Puget Sound, somewhere over there, they had this very simple like HTML website, and they had no desire really to change it. And I said, no problem. I'll get you a Google Sheet. And then we created a new page for them. And this one is embedded directly in there. We didn't, because they have just pure HTML. So that's just two examples. We're able to, for no extra cost, set them up. And now I've just turned over the Google Sheet to them, and they're good to go. Um, I I actually presented about this same topic at the 2022 National AA Technology Workshop. It was a presentation titled "The $12 plus tax a year website and tech stack." And I documented it all on this website, which I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute. And the only downfall of this is that, you know, you can use any domain registrar, but Google Domains is sold to, I think, Squarespace. So I don't know if you can get a $12 domain anymore. I'm sure somewhere, but you can still set up a AA website pretty much for no cost except the domain. You just have to find a free content management. Besides Google Sites, I don't know if there is any. I'm sure there are. Google Sites is just nice because it lets you use a custom domain for free. Like Squarespace and Weebly, if you want to use your own domain, is when you have to start paying. So this is a reference, and I have had one person actually follow these instructions and replicate everything, which I was proud that that actually was possible. But yeah, reach out to me if you're interested in trying to recreate this. I'd be happy to help you. And there's another tool, that Google Sheet, to get the actual feed. Like the meeting guide has no problem grabbing it straight from the Google Sheet. But kind of like Emma mentioned with the Google Maps API, if you want to hook up your Google Sheet directly to your TSML UI, you have to get an API key. And Code for Recovery has created a nice tool so you don't have to do that. They do all that for you. It's called their Sheets importer, and you just refresh it when you make changes, and it gives you a nice feed. And again, more information than on this than we can fit in 15 minutes, but that gives you an idea of what you can do if you don't have WordPress, but you want to get a meeting list set up on your website. And so I will now turn it over to our last presenter. Oh, before I have a little intro for Josh before I turn it over to him. Let me find my other script. Okay, so our last presenter is Josh. He's a member of Code for Recovery, and that's the service organization that actually maintains and develops the 12-step meeting list, WordPress plugin, and the TSML UI. They're open source software created by recovering people just like us. I've asked Josh to present on what's new with these projects and maybe what might be coming in the future for them. And so I will turn it over to Josh.
Hey, thanks, Jacob. I'm Josh. I'm an alcoholic, and it's great to be here. Thanks for setting this up. I'll start my timer. Okay. Yeah. So, uh, what's next for this? I'm not sure that I have a satisfying answer. I can definitely talk about what is recent. But I think what I'd like to start with maybe is like the long ago history. I was listening to you talk about how you were like pulling over and checking your phone and pinching and zooming to find the right meeting. And that was my exact experience. I got sober in June 20th of 2013. And so I would love to share my screen and show, I was just looking on archive.org, which is like the Wayback Machine. This is what I'm in Mountain View, California, and I had just moved at that time to Cupertino, California. And so I was coming from the East Coast. I had no idea where the meetings were. And this is what the website looked like back then. And so if you click on meeting listings, then it takes a second because this is all like, captured in time or whatever. But what you'll see is that it forced me to make a choice right away when it loaded. Oh, this is going to be a bummer if it doesn't load. Okay, here we go. Come on, you can do it. All right, so this was my like alcoholic landing page, my lifeline, right? It was like, I'm going to find a meeting using this page. And so I clicked on Cupertino. I was like, oh, they got Cupertino on here. And there was a whole backstory of even finding this website because I went on aa.org expecting to find meetings and didn't. And then, so I clicked on Cupertino and this is what I saw. And, there are a lot of meetings in the San Jose area. It's a big metro area. It's the 10th largest city in the United States, actually. And so it's annoying that, and I don't know, like, is Los Altos close to me? Is Morgan Hill close to me? Like, I didn't know. And then we have these codes here, and I know that it's not hard to see what they mean, but you kind of have to like remember that. And anyway, it was very frustrating. And I remember seeing this link, this export to CSV, and I downloaded the meetings and I kind of came up with a mobile friendly version that I could use to find meetings. And, these map links were not really consistent a lot of the time. And they would sometimes like pop open in a new window, et cetera, et cetera. I guess this won't show what that experience was like, but basically it wasn't telling me like how far they were. So this is what the San Jose website is like today. So if I were to be that alcoholic now, I could come here, I could search near a location, I could type Cupertino, I could gotta get Zoom out of the way, could go to the map view, I could be like, oh, I just want meetings within 5 miles of me. Like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to see, like, okay, here's Cupertino. There's basically nothing here, but there's a bunch of meetings near me. What's the closest one? Okay, that's a Tuesday noon meeting. Here's another one. And anyway, so this is sort of like where we came from. And one of the like original um, goals that I had was to like completely get rid of these codes. And I feel like we did get rid of them in the interface. Like it's not D equals discussion and C equals closed. But unfortunately, like the product itself, like when we're talking about TSML and TSML UI, like the product is still an acronym or an initialism. And it was just like, oh, I wish we could have come up, it's sort of our default, I guess, as humans to want to like shorten things. But anyway, so yeah, let's just talk quickly about what Code for Recovery is. Code for Recovery is a group of members, mainly alcoholics, but people from all different recovery programs that come together and meet twice or every 2 weeks on Saturday mornings. And we talk about technology and what we're working on. And then we contribute, free open source software here on GitHub. And there are a bunch of links here, but the really important one is 12-step meeting list and then discussions. And so we just invite people to like come in here, create a new discussion about anything you want, and we'll, get back to you right away. And so, like somebody's asking for, instructions on they're going to be making some changes to their WordPress. And so people are, in there just like answering questions. And, no question is a bad question. So feel free to ask them. And then the great thing is that then, you can come in here and, search for the question, if something is like geocoding, maybe, and you could see that like different people have asked questions about that at different times, et cetera. So that's the situation. I would say that this is like, I think this link has been shared already, but this is really the place to come to get involved if you need support. And in terms of like what has been happening recently, so we already looked at the plugin page, but let's just go back here and I'll show you one thing on here is there's a development tab. And then under here, it tells you kind of what is in each version. And this version was released, I think, on Saturday, maybe, and then, or Sunday, and then this one was released on Monday. And so the one on Monday, just to cover that one, is that there were some people that were getting alerts inside WordFence, which is a security plugin, because some researcher had taken a look at our code, which is great. It's open source. That's what it's there for. And they had seen that there's a way to download a CSV, and that the CSV to them, it was, not linked on your website, but if somebody could guess the link of the CSV, then they'd be able to download the link of it. And so we made that private so that you have to be logged into WordPress to get the CSV now. But it's unfortunate because, as I mentioned before, like when my whole story, the whole road to the plugin and the TSML UI and the meeting guide app and all of this, really it emanated from this one link on the A San Jose site, that many years ago. And if I hadn't been able to download the whole meeting list as a CSV back then as a public person and kind of create my own, then none of that, like I never would have gone down that road, and I might not even be sober. Like, I don't know. I like to think that I would be, but anyway, this was just such a big part of my recovery that I have a real, place in my heart for letting people download the CSV and sharing the data. But anyway, so that's the recent stuff. I would say that in terms of what's next, and it looks like I've got a few minutes still. What's next is like we have this 2023 wrap up, and it kind of talks about what we've been working on. We have other projects besides TSML UI and 12-step meeting lists. There was a big effort last year to support online intergroup. I see some people from online intergroup on the call. They have slightly different needs than the rest of than just like a regular geographic intergroup. Anyway, we've got PDF stuff going on, but the point is that our primary goal is to increase the number of actively contributing members. And what that means is we're really looking for developers to join us. And Jacob created this terrific flyer that is here on our site. And we invite people to use that if they want to on their own site. But more importantly than that is just to get the word out. And if there are website developers, like people who code in PHP or any programming language at all, no preference for one or the other. We do a lot with JavaScript and PHP, but there's no limit. Anyone who wants to join us, they should come to our website and find this join us, which is on every page, and that they can find an email, and then that email will go to our member Tim, and Tim will kind of invite them to join us in our quest to like both maintain and preserve and enhance this software that, so many sites are using. And so let me just say that, like, in 2013, I got sober. 2014, the plugin kind of rolled out initially onto the San Jose site, but then in 2015 it rolled out to onto the first kind of WordPress plugins and different sites. Like I think that Philadelphia was one of the first ones using it, Austin, Texas, San Francisco, and actually San Francisco came later. But the point is, now we're up to 900 different sites using this software. And so it's just really exciting to kind of be part of that. And, I think that in terms of like what's next, in terms of features, like it's really a question of what do people want to work on. And I would say that like in this release here, which was one that we were working on for a few weeks, I did this one, but this guy, Anthony, who's a part of Code for Recovery, kind of spearheaded it a little bit as well. This one was, I think, George, Dave contributed a couple. Anyway, my point is that there are a bunch of people that are contributing to each of these releases, and we'd love to grow that number of developers. That's really like the critical thing is, I've been doing this for 10 years, or I guess a little more than that. And I don't want to stop. I love doing it, but Jacob's topic that kind of got us started on this at NATW is talking about I'm not sure how I phrased it, but like the bus principle. What if somebody gets hit by a bus? We don't want to depend too much on one person. And so I think it's, I think that's part of it. I also, I want to share this thing, that's been instrumental in my recovery. Like I was, a very lightly employed alcoholic in 2013. Now I have a terrific job at a technology company, and they didn't look at the recovery work that I did, but the recovery work that I did made me kind of the person I am today. And it certainly got me very well acquainted with JavaScript and the other kind of technologies that I use every day at work. So it's been, it's that, and then also being responsible and meeting people on this call that I know, like Sherry and Lois and others from Melinda from different conferences and stuff. It's just been, that's how I stay sober. And different people find their own path. But I think that for a particular type of like kind of computer-oriented developer, this can be a really good avenue to be of service. So thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. And I want to thank again Emma and Josh and whoever that other presenter was. Thank you all. Thank you for being of service today and presenting on our topic. And we're now going to go into questions and sharing. And I'm surprised, but the timing I planned out is working pretty much perfectly. So we've got about 30 minutes. If you have a question you want to ask, or you can just share if you have, experience on this topic. Some people have already done it. Just raise your virtual hand. If you can keep your share to 3 minutes or less, and I'll time, and if you've reached 3 minutes, I'll just chime in. I'll say gentle reminder to remind you to wrap up. And if it's a question for one of the presenters, we'll let them respond. If you think you have an answer, just raise your hand, and when we get to you, you can add in your input to the discussion. So David H., go ahead.
Thank you. My name is David, and I am an alcoholic. I was very happy to see Josh here from the same area that I'm at. Maybe I'll even see him at PRASA. I've got a local linguistic district that would like to have a meeting guide and even a website, and they don't have the skills to do that, anybody in their group. And I've kind of taken it on as something that I might help out with. I have only managed the plugins of a WordPress website. I haven't built one, but my big question is how to deal with the language, the language deal. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I'll let Josh take that one.
Yeah, so we've worked with other sites that have a primary language that's other than English. And there's a site even in Japan now that the meeting data is fully in Japanese. TSML UI recognizes your browser language when you visit the site. So if your browser or your phone or your computer is set to Spanish or French or Japanese or Swedish randomly, not randomly, somebody contributed that. But anyway, those are the languages that are currently supported. We'd love to onboard more languages. It's super not hard to do. But anyway, I think it's a really good option and we'd be happy to support you. So, your options are, I think TSML UI would be the preference, but in terms of using a Google Sheet or using WordPress to manage that, either one should be fine. And if you have any questions, like I said, come to GitHub and post a question. We'll jump right on it.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Dan, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm an alcoholic. We're up in Washington, and we had a lot of trouble with having a single pathway for all the area meeting information. So we created a user management on WordPress, and we give our DCMs a login so they can just handle their own district's meetings. I think what was kind of different about there weren't very many districts had any websites at all. I'm curious if anybody else is doing it that way on WordPress. My cautions, if we're the only one, I like Jacob's thing, but we're having arguments on our tech committee about that. So that was my first question. Josh, looking forward to meet you. I don't know if you remember, we talked a long time ago. I used to be in Wenatchee and probably about this same issue. So that's it.
Thank you, Dan. I can say Area 72 used to do that, but we had so many local people most of the information was covered by just the main big intergroups. And then as districts started building their own websites, we shifted away from having people log in. But I also would be curious if others do that. John, D27, another fellow Area 72 member, go ahead.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm an alcoholic and my name is John. I became the web servant for our district's website 2 years ago with no web experience and no WordPress experience, but basic computer experience. And I want to do a little bit of a alternative viewpoint here. At our subscription rate on our WordPress for our website is very affordable. It's less than $75 a year, but it doesn't allow for plugins. So I understand that you don't need the WordPress plugin in order to get the JSON feed up to the meeting list. But having an instruction tutorial or a map on the various steps required to do that without the plugin would be very beneficial. As a real world acknowledgement, in order to subscribe at plugin rates, it's 4 to 5 times more than we're paying right now. So in a small district, that's a consideration for sure. And we do talk about the coordination of information between websites. I know that in our district, we coordinate with a intergroup office close by, and of course with the area website. And Jacob has been patient and trying to describe some of those interactions. And I expect that other AA districts and websites are also finding it a little cumbersome at times. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And yeah, the cost of running WordPress, now your own WordPress.com, most people who run WordPress are probably hosting the open source software on a other web host, but the cost is significant, and that's why there's one reason my central service office was happy when we went away from WordPress, because it was now free essentially to use Google Sites. And if you wanted to stay with the current WordPress.com, rate you're using, this, I'll put it in the chat again. This is that presentation I made at NAATW. I won't say it's an easy tutorial, but it is the steps you could take to set up your own meeting lists for free with GitHub Pages. And you know me, so reach out if you have questions about that. Lois, go ahead.
Hey guys, glad to be here. Lois L. from Area 38. And I just wanted to follow up on the language question, because that is a little bit unique in that there's two components of language. The meeting is conducted in a specific language, as well as the interface is presented in a different language. So two pieces there. David, just to keep that in mind, right? I'm guessing that all of the meetings from the district that you're supporting are probably in a different language. When, they'll need to, you can bring them in and you can tag those meetings with a specific language. And that's relevant because people can use the meeting guide app to filter, or, the website. And then in the same way that the plugin or the website tests your I guess your browser language, or I don't know how that one works. I can tell you that the meeting guide app also renders in the language of your device is rendered in. So sometimes my understanding is that people will say, like, why isn't it in Spanish? Well, it is. If you've got your phone set for Spanish, you can see it in Spanish. It's not all languages, but it's Spanish, French, Japanese, English right now. That's all I have. Thanks for all you guys do.
Thanks, Lois. Dave G, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dave. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm trying to fill in on Dan's work ahead of me here in Area 92, Washington. I guess I kind of have two questions. One of which is, we have the old, well, we all have the threefold, put your names on it, when and where's in a PDF nowadays. I was just wondering if there's any work out there to take these Google Sheets or whatever and put them, add your local information on the other side in the area for place for people to put their numbers and come up with that particular format. The other thing is I have found that what we have in Area 92, when you can get our DCMs, like what I once was, to actually do the updates, that keeps it really good. And that keeps, for us, it feeds up to GSO and to the meeting guide quite nicely. It'd be nice to have a feedback down to my district's website so that we didn't have to maintain things in more than one place. So just some thoughts.
Thanks, Dave. I can't speak to the first question, but the last question about going kind of down, I've thought a lot about that because the Puget Sound Central Service Office serves 7 districts, and 3 of them have their own website with kind of a a disconnected meeting list that they manage independently. And I'd love, and I think they would love to just be able to pull data from the Puget Sound to go downward, so that it's all just what managed in one place, and it pulls up to the area website and up to the meeting guide, but down to the individual districts. And one of my DCMs is a professional web developer, and we're working on a little prototype to do that. And I think actually you might have in Area 92 had mentioned that and when you submitted your interest survey. So if that prototype ever gets off the ground, I'll reach out and maybe I mean, if there's enough interest, I'm hoping it would be adopted by Code for Recovery as some kind of project, because I think there is a lot of value in that. So thank you, Dave. Emma, go ahead.
Oh, I think I can answer his first question. And that is that there is there is a choice where you can, once you populate your meetings in I don't know about the Google Sheets format. I imagine there is for that too, but I use the WordPress plugin interface, and there is an option for generating PDF PDFs of your meeting listings, and you can make some choices about how you want them to be displayed, and then generate the PDF and print.
Yeah, but it's probably hard to make it look like an old style 2-page with the place to put your phone numbers on it and that sort of thing.
You'd
Yeah,
have to, yeah, it only generates the pages that have the actual meeting listings information. And so to make it into a booklet, yeah, you'd have to do some work there, and it would not be a single page trifold, which is why I don't use that option. I just stick with a manual editing, but it is there, and you could work with it. I just haven't done it myself yet. So
and I'll add that I wrote a custom program for my central service office to do that. But it only gives it the format we want it in. And I think that's another project that if I ever don't have a service position and I can really dedicate myself to building it, I'd love to just work on that. Because yeah, we all have our meeting data in the same format, which is the meeting guide specified format. And it would be great if we had a tool that could take that and let us produce the physical paper versions. But we all want them in slightly different formats. So we have to figure out how to do that. And we'll go Dan, and then Josh might have some more to add on that topic. But go ahead, Dan.
Josh, why don't you go ahead? I was going to talk about something else too. So
Okay, yeah, thanks. I'll be quick. But yeah, so there is a service that Emma was mentioning that you can click from WordPress. It'll take you to a service though that you could put a Google Sheet into and it would generate. And that's how the San Jose intergroup does it. They have here, I'll share my screen, you can see. They have a Safari, that's what I want. So it's called pdf.codeforrecovery.org. You put your sheet URL or your feed URL, either one, into here, and then you can generate this feed. I'll show you by streaming. It'll take a second to kind of render. And this is what it looks like. And different sites, like you said, Jacob, like have different formats that they want. But what San Jose does is I created this Google Doc for them that they can use to kind of prepend to when they're printing. And then they have a printer in the office that can bookletize the printout, and then they can, fold it over and staple it. And they also have an append that they have with like phone, room for phone numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, every site's different, and they're going to want different things. And that's another reason to find people in your area that are developers who want to like help out, you know, people like Jacob who want to scratch their own itch. And we can, you know, join us and can accommodate your particular format.
Thank you, Josh. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of a hack that we did for, and it works for geographically isolated districts, is we just save a search into a district and then they can put that on their website. So it goes to our data source. It would be nice if we could do multiple districts. The regions get kind of goofy, and especially rural areas. And but that I know one district that I built a website for. I just said, well, here's your district number searched into the area site. So we got one data source. That's one of the big things, is we had all these little pockets of data all over the place that were different, and anything which this I'm very grateful has done huge efforts to solve that problem. So but that might be available to some, if you can. Then they only got one place to update their information and manage the view of it, is all.
Thank you. That is a great solution that I've proposed to those districts, and they're not necessarily happy with it, but yeah, that gets the job done. So thank you. Anyone else? We have 13 more minutes, or we can end early. Dougie, go ahead.
Yeah, Dougie Alcoholic. Josh, thank you so much. The stuff I put in the meeting guide is the gold standard of everything that we have for meetings. However, GSO has a bunch of meeting stuff that just doesn't get reconciled very well. I'm just suggesting, or maybe you can give a better suggestion of creating like a companion plugin or other metadata that I would track as a registrar, like meeting in, meeting, their different numbers, their group IDs, kind of stuff that doesn't feed up into the meeting guide app, but it would be there tied together between what's on the meeting guide plugin and what else is available. That's my question.
I'm not sure I fully envision the solution, but we do get the request from time to time to like add a field for your fellowship connection ID number. And there's kind of a workaround that you can do, which is to append it to your group name, that you can, it's not a meeting, it's a group that gets a fellowship number. And so then that could be part of the group name, and the group can be unique because it could be the one day at a time group, you know, number 017249. And then you can search for that if you want to, and find the meetings that way. There's also a really interesting topic on the TIA site. I just wanted to shout that out, that somebody has requested the ability to, they want to have an API that can fetch data directly out of Fellowship Connection. So you should chime in on that topic if that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Dougie and Josh. Jim, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Jim. I'm an alcoholic. Everybody hear me? I had a question really on the, we're running into situations where districts are, we're able to support sites, now they're not. Then in the interim, I'm in a suburb of Chicago. So in the interim, they've listed it with Chicago. Now they got a site back, so it's on the site, and you kind of work with GSO, get the sourcing worked out. But what I'm encountering is situations, and those are the ones we realize. And so if I go to import something, it gives me okay, somebody else has got that, which is awesome. What I'm struggling with is the converse of that, where people are importing my meetings and they're getting errors, but they're just letting them go. And the reason I'm concerned about that is if I make a change to the meeting, I need them to know about it. So, they know about me, but in the case of the Chicago office, they you know, they too go through changes. So not everybody knows how to get and review those reports to even know these conflicts are occurring. So I was wondering if there's any, and I don't know if this code set, that import export process, is this code set part of Code for Recovery? Or is that a whole different repo? Is that open source? That's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've definitely worked with a number of districts surrounding Chicago, and I remember hearing some questions about overlaps with meeting guide data back when I was supporting that. And I would say that a lot of times it comes down to cooperation, and sometimes districts are sort of more interested in importing data and than larger intergroups are, and persuade, like, what would be terrific would be if you could manage your set of meetings for the district and then the area was able to import from you. And I don't know if that's exactly what's happening or if that would be the solution in this case, but I definitely think that we're happy to like talk it through with you as well on GitHub, and come up with a solution if there's some kind of hack we can suggest, or if there isn't, then at least we can kind of express what the ideal solution would be, and then somebody at the Chicago office maybe could take a look at that. I don't know if Katie is still
Yeah,
there,
I don't think I'm explaining this well enough. It's not so much that, you know, they aren't looking at it. It's just that I see if I'm trying to step on them, right? I get an error on my rejects on the import, right? So if in other words, if I'm posting their meetings, they own that location, so it'll give me an import error, right? So I'm good with that. The converse is not the case, and that's what I think we need to think about changing. Is if somebody is importing a location that I own and they're getting an error, many times they don't even know it, because I mean, specifically Chicago went for a while where they didn't have anybody that even knew how to get those reports. In fact, I'm not even, you know, not everybody is set up for those reports, or they weren't for a while. So the deal is, hey, I know if my thing fails, but what I don't know if somebody else is failing because I own that location, and I need to notify them, hey, we updated this meeting.
I get it. You're not talking about the plugin here. You're talking about the entity dashboard on the meeting guide app.
Yeah, well, the process that sits behind it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. That's a great idea. I don't know that there's a mechanism for that within GSO. We do have monthly calls with them, and we'd be happy to kind of surface that as an idea, like a mechanism for notifying you that another group is kind of experiencing a collision with your data.
Right.
And some, like, what would be the ideal scenario? Like that you get some email or something that would say like District 49 wants to add a meeting at 123.
Basically, anybody that errors out on a location I own, or I mean, ideally, I could get it on my own import, right? I'll say I import, and by the way, you know, somebody else is trying to own this location. I mean, that would be kind of one-stop shopping for me, if I could go, hey, I failed, and by the way, you know, you failed because somebody else owns this, but these other guys failed because you own them. I mean, that would be perfect solution in my world, but the email be good. Any notification, because I mean, a lot of these I just trip over them, you know. Like, oh yeah, 20 years ago, before we even had a website, you know, those guys listed on their website, you know, and it's still out there. And sometimes the time changes, or, you know, the name of the church changes, or, you know, things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's a really interesting idea. And as Lois pointed out in the chat, there's the meeting guide entity dashboard, which sounds like this is actually where you're kind of experiencing this and wanna like that the UX could be improved, where maybe you could get a notification the next time you go into the entity dashboard saying, these 4 addresses you have in common with this other entity. Did you want to, and then maybe there could be actions that you could take, like, I want to transfer the location to them, or I want to share the location with them, or something, or, you know, put me in touch with them about this. Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. Well, we don't have the capability, but we have the capability to start the conversation. So
Yeah, well, that's where I was headed really is the discussion forum that we've described, is that strictly for the UI, or does that include the, the back end when I guess
Well,
the meeting
yeah.
guide into, yeah.
So that's just for the 12-step meeting list WordPress plugin or the TSML UI for the actual meeting list on your website. What you're describing, and this is a good distinction, is something that AA.org, the GSO, is in charge of. The entity dashboard is them, and Code for Recovery, they don't have any authority to make those changes. But like Josh mentioned, they do, I think, talk monthly with them, and so they could get that discussion started. But yeah, maybe email appsupport@a.org and give them that same suggestion.
Yeah, I have not found that to be a very interactive process. In other words, you kind of send something, you don't get a ticket number, you don't really hear anything, you send something again, you don't really know if it's the same person. That sometimes it seems like you're starting from scratch. It's not like a forum. That's where I was getting at.
Sure.
Do they have, yeah.
No, good. Fair enough. Yeah, no, the forum is just for the Code for Recovery software. And so we got enough time for one more. Sean, go ahead.
I actually have a comment for the person who was asking the question immediately before Jim. There is, he was asking about like a way to have your fellowship connection meeting ID included. There is a very, very early development plugin on the Code for Recovery repository. It's called 12-Step Meeting List Extras. It has not been officially published or placed on the WordPress plugin directory for download. I have downloaded it and dabbled with it a little bit, but it is, at this point, it is purely use at your own risk. Yeah, because I see myself wanting to work with my area registrar and get that information in there as well. But of course, as I think Josh mentioned, the spec is really kind of somewhat dictated by the meeting guide. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. So that brings us to the end of our session. And before we close, I've got a couple closing announcements. As I mentioned before our presentations began, we are a learning group, full of all levels of technology experience, from beginners to experts. And because we're a learning group, that means that all of you are eligible at future tech sharing sessions to present on things you have experience with, even if you're not an expert. So here's a survey. This is topic survey. So both topics you're interested in hearing more about, and also topics you might have experience that you'd be available to share. You can, express both of those through that survey. And because this is an experiment, I'd like to get some feedback to see how you guys felt today went. So here is another form for just giving some feedback about today. And I created a Google Drive folder that's going to have basically all the tech sharing session stuff. So you can, find those links and everything else, including the recording of this session. I'll have it ready either tonight or tomorrow, and I'll put it in that Google Drive then. And lastly, just many of you have probably already signed up. There's a email distribution list. If you want to get on it, you can just send an email to techsharingsessions@gmail.com. and you'll get one reminder email a week before the session, and then the day after you'll get the link to the recording. And if you have, just any questions or want to connect with me, you can reach me through that that email as well. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.